Thank you for watching Murder, Monsters, and Mysteries. Tonight, we'll be taking a look at the 25 most insane inmates of all time. These men are a mixture of murderers, monsters, and just freaking weird mysteries. 25. Gary Lee Sampson. A convicted murderer, Sampson threatened to kill death row officials and bragged about his murders. He also allegedly spent donation money on cappuccinos. 24. Ronnie McPeters. While on death row, Ronnie would smear feces on the walls, the floor, and himself. He also soaked himself in urine and told a psychiatrist that he was filming a commercial. 23. Tsutomu Miyazaki, Japanese serial killer, came to be known as the Human Dracula because he drank the blood of his victims. He apparently spent most of the trial drawing cartoon images of Ratman, an alter ego he claimed made him kill. He also wasn't repentant at all, even before being executed. 22. Jeffrey Dahmer. Everyone knows him, everyone loves him. A serial killer who is known for eating his victims. Jeffrey was eventually beaten to death in prison by another inmate. How could we leave him off this list? 21. Carl Punzrum, a serial killer. Carl spat in the executioner's face before having a hood placed over his head. When he was asked for last words, he replied, "Yes, hurry it up, you hoosier bastard. I could kill a dozen more men while you're still screwing around." 20. Andrew Goldstein. In 1999, he was convicted for pushing Kendra Webdale into the path of an oncoming subway train. During his trial, it became apparent that he was quite insane. He thought someone was trying to dissect his brain, that poison food was enlarging his genitals. Don't we all have that problem? And a guy named Larry stole his feces. Another problem I'm sure is common. 19. Ed Gein. Ed Gein was the man they based the Texas Chainsaw Massacre on, apparently, and Psycho. Although Ed Gein did not eat his victims, he did, however, make furniture out of the skin of bodies. He was a notorious body snatcher who would dig up bodies in local graveyards. He would wear their skin, and he was found to be legally insane. 18. William Bonin, known as the Freeway Killer, William killed and tortured at least 20 victims along Southern California's highways. His nasty side was still evident prior to his execution, as he sent letters to many of his victims' families, describing how their loved ones had reacted to the torture. 17. Mark Chopper Reed, an Australian criminal who is known for being crazy. The movie Chopper is based on his life. Once, while being interviewed, he played Russian roulette with himself, then turned the gun on the reporter and forced her to play too. Fortunately, there wasn't a bullet in the chamber for either of them. 16. John Wayne Gacy. Gacy was known as the Killer Clown because on one hand he was a serial killer, and on the other hand he would dress up as a clown for children's parties and charity events. While on death row, he obsessively painted images of clowns. 15. Anthony and William Esposito. After robbing a money truck in 1941, these two brothers tried to prove that they were insane by barking like dogs, banging their heads until they were bleeding and drooling. The court, however, remained unconvinced. 14. Ted Bundy, another fan favorite. A notorious serial killer, Bundy described himself as the most cold-hearted son of a bitch you'll ever meet. Even his defense attorney later noted that he was the very definition of heartless evil. 13. Ahmad Siraji, an Indonesian cattle farmer who thought he was a sorcerer. Ahmad killed 40 women and girls in the early 90s. He then buried them waist deep in a field facing his house because he thought this would give him more power. He was eventually executed by firing squad. What a freaking psycho. 12. Gregory David Roberts, former heroin addict and bank robber from Australia. Gregory escaped from prison and fled to India, where he lived for 10 years. He wrote a famous book, Shantaram, that details his experience living on the streets of Mumbai, helping orphans, starting a health clinic, starring in Bollywood films, and becoming involved in the local criminal underworld. How truthful his stories are is not fully known. 11. Curtis Carroll. Born into a family of crackheads, Curtis got into quite a bit of trouble early in life. Eventually, he ended up in San Quentin prison. While on the inside, he learned to read and became intrigued with the business section of the newspaper. He couldn't believe that people could play around with so much money. And before long, he was playing with the stocks. He got so good at picking stocks that his nickname is now the Oracle of San Quentin. Sometimes walking the thin line of insanity is financially beneficial. 10. Luis Garavito, known as La Bestia, the Beast. Luis allegedly raped and killed more than 300 boys in and around Colombia. Since Colombian law limits imprisonment to 40 years, he may be released soon. Needless to say, the public is not very happy about this. Well, I definitely won't be taking my next vacation to Colombia. 9. Dennis Rader. Dennis was known as the BTK murderer, bind, torture, kill, because this is the alias he used while sending taunting letters to the police. Not only was he crazy, his ego was enormous. 8. Charles Edmund Cullen, known as the Angel of Death. Cullen was a nurse in New Jersey when he was convicted for murdering more than 40 patients. Experts, however, believe that Cullen is responsible for 400 other murders and is possibly the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history. 7. T-Bone. The Arizona prisoner believes it's his duty to protect weak prisoners. So what does he do? He beats up the bullies. It might be insanity to stand up in such places, but we're sure there are thankful inmates. Number 6. Jason Eyeball Barnum. Facing trial for murder, prosecutors in Anchorage, Alaska say that Jason's tattoo shows his hostility to society. While trying to feed his drug addiction, even he admits to running crazy. And you'll never guess where the tattoo is. If you guessed on his eyeball, you were right. Number 5. Peter Curtin. Known as the Vampire of Dusseldorf, his last words give away how crazy he was. Tell me, after my head has been chopped off, will I still be able to hear, at least for a moment, the sound of my own blood gushing from the stump of my neck? That would be a pleasure to end all pleasures. 4. Daniel Genus. After graduating from NYU, Daniel got into drugs and ended up owing a dealer quite a bit of money. He was arrested after he started mugging people in order to repay his debt. While in prison, he was known for his interesting behavior. Once, he even convinced his fellow inmates to sell him their souls. Number 3. Andrei Chikatilo. Known as the Butcher of Rostov, Andrei was a Soviet serial killer who was once quoted as saying, "When I used my knife, it brought psychological relief. I know I have to be destroyed. I was a mistake of nature." Number 2. Pedro Rodrigues Filho. Known as the Brazilian Maniac, Pedro started killing early, many times for revenge. After his father killed his mother with a machete, he killed his father, cut out his heart, and chewed it before throwing it away. He also tortured and killed numerous gang members in revenge for killing his girlfriend. The craziest part? All this happened before turning 18. When he was arrested, however, he continued killing people in jail. Since then, he has promised the deaths of some of Brazil's highest profile serial killers. Kind of a Dexter Morgan in real life. Number 1. For your most insane inmates, Alexander Pichishkin. Another Russian serial killer. It is believed that Alexander was competing with Andrei, the Butcher, and allegedly wanted to complete the number of squares on a chessboard by killing 64 people. Strangely enough, He was a kind and sociable child until he was struck in the head by a swing. Experts believe this caused his insanity and aggression. If you enjoy what you saw, please like and subscribe, as we'll be uploading more videos weekly.